Welcome, everybody. My name is John Lincoln. I'm director of the Reach Performing Arts Center. I'm here today with Grace Morey. Let's go ahead and jump into the questions. I'm going to ask first, do you have a favorite play that you've worked on?
Yeah, so my favorite play was definitely Attached. That was a show that you wrote, and it was super cool because all of the characters kind of fit everyone in our cast. And when we went to theater festival, when we finished the play, it was so special because everyone just was completely on the same page that we had hit the best show we had ever done. And everyone had their arms up in the air because, like, as you know, we can't touch anything after we finish the play. And, like, some people were crying and laughing and jumping up and down. And it was just a really, really, really cool experience.
Yeah, I've worked on a lot of festivals over the years, and I would say in terms of everybody agreeing that we just had the best possible show that we could have. Mm-hmm. And I've won festivals, and we haven't always felt that way.
Yeah, and the audience was on the same page too, which that really kind of solidifies that feeling of like, wow, we just did a great show.
Yeah, we had a lot of conversations going into that. How are people going to react to a horror play? Because the worst thing that can happen is everyone laughs, not with you, not at the horror of it, but just laughs because
at
it's
you.
And I thought you guys did just such a good job. It takes everybody pulling in the same direction, and the commitment all being, we all believe in what's happening in this little house. Do you have a role that you really enjoy playing here?
Yeah, definitely Lisa from David and Lisa. It was based in a home where the kids there had some sort of mental illness or issue, and it didn't really ever come out and say what the kids did or didn't have. My character would have been labeled as a girl with schizophrenia. And so it was just super cool to go through her mind and figure out who she was and who she wasn't was also really hard. And it was just unlike any character I've ever played. And it was super cool to just dissect the role.
What's really fun about working on that play is that everyone has a different relationship with everybody else in that room in a really sort of specific way. And watching the relationship develop between David and Lisa, the way you and Drew handled those roles was really, really fun to watch. And really, I thought a credit to the work of the two of you and everybody in that cast, because there's a lot of people in that house who don't always say a lot of things, but very directly impact how you feel or how, the emotion the character is going through. And so you all did a really nice job, I thought, of bringing that to life.
Yeah, for sure.
There's that old cliche that there aren't small parts, only small actors, but it's so true. We constantly here have casts of 20. So we're always looking for shows that can fit a cast of 20, and often in a 40-minute festival show, that's not the easiest thing to do. You and Mason Plummer were both recognized as all festival actors this year in the bookstore for a scene that was really only like 4 minutes long.
Yeah, no, that was just super cool because that was our own little part.
Yeah.
It was really special to, just be in that one little section of the play, but have them still notice it.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you about, you are the reigning Miss Maine Teen USA, and you've done some modeling. And so I wanted to ask about the skill sets in the pageant and modeling world and how they line up with the skills in the theater world, and what you've maybe learned from each that have helped you cross that bridge in terms of doing all of the things that you've done.
Honestly, I think it was more of an acting taught me how to do the other things kind of situation, because my first show, in like 4th grade, I was a sea anemone in The Little Mermaid, but my first show was my freshman year. Coming into high school, I was like, I want to do something different. I want to try absolutely everything I can in the short 4 years that I have. So I got into school acting, and I absolutely loved it. I was a gymnast for 13 years, so performing was always something that was really close to my heart. And my cousin was into modeling, and she was like, acting and modeling kind of go hand in hand. So towards the end of my freshman year, beginning of my sophomore year, I really started to look into the connection between acting and modeling. And pageantry is one of those things where you've got your stage performance, but you also have to know how to speak well, which is something that acting teaches. So it was just kind of gathering that skill set kind of toolbox from acting and just kind of putting it into a real life situation.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking at signing to an acting and modeling agency in New York City, and I'm from a little rock in Deer Isle, Maine. So things just kind of snowball, and I think it's been such a journey, and I think I can give acting a lot of credit for how much it allowed me to embrace all of these different sides.
Yeah, and you talk about the gymnast piece of it and the performance of that, and I think people sometimes, and also you've been a cheerleader for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and so all of those things, that idea of being what I call being on, you're in the public eye, or you're the center of attention, or everyone's watching what you're doing, and so you always have to be on. And so I think for a lot of people who talk about what a theater program can do, I think you came to the program with that from your experience, but I think a lot of people have gained that.
Yeah.
Well, or heightened that skill level, or however you want to describe it.
Right. Yeah.
Because I remember when you came to me freshman year, you said, I want to do a show. And I was surprised just because I knew how many other things you do. And so, I mean, when you were crowned, it was literally the week before David and Lisa. How do you manage the number of commitments you have in a way that's healthy and productive for you?
Yeah, I think that's probably the thing I've struggled with the most, just because I came into high school wanting to do everything I could. Sometimes it definitely had a toll on me, and I have had countless nights where I just haven't even gone to bed because I just have so much to do, and I still don't even get it all done. But the week I was crowned definitely was the craziest week of my life this far, because I was still dissecting that role, and I was still in a place even a week before the show where I didn't really know how to portray Lisa. Then I won, and of course I still had schoolwork to keep up with, and so many things were just in my mind, but I really used acting as an outlet from all of that. And not that any of it was bad, but it was just so overwhelming. So, acting and performing, it was a way that I could just kind of let loose, and I didn't even have to be myself on stage. I was someone else in that hour or 2 hours.
I know exactly what you mean. I've always been able to, whatever I'm dealing with, whatever's happening when I walk into the theater and rehearsal starts. I'm not saying it's like a magic button you push, but it does feel like you're given permission to release everything that you might be dealing with. You've had the opportunity to go with us to New York to see shows on Broadway and to experience New York City. So do you have any memories from that stand out for you?
Yes, I do. And I laugh because it's not something related to anything we've talked about. But yeah, as you said, we went to Broadway, and that alone was super cool. I had the Beetlejuice soundtrack stuck in my head for the rest of the year, and sometimes I still sing Dead Mom while I'm getting ready for school. So, but no, one of the most memorable moments from that trip was we went to the M&M factory, and I kid you not, I have not seen stricter security in anywhere that I've traveled to. Like, they had guards standing in front of the M&M machines so that you wouldn't take them, because you could just, pull them down, and you had this bag that you just fill your M&Ms up with. And so I had heard that people had gone in there and just like tried a couple of the M&Ms. I don't know if that counts as stealing. I hope it doesn't. So I was like, oh, I'm going to try this jalapeno M&M, because I've heard from some people it's super cool. And I don't like spicy things, but for some reason I was so drawn to this M&M. And they didn't have a guard around it. So I took one, and the guard saw me from the other side. And I wasn't allowed on that level of the M&M factory for the rest of the time.
This is the time I got kicked out of the M&M factory in New York City.
And it was the most disgusting M&M I've ever had in my life. It was gross. It wasn't even good.
And what's funny is, as I've talked to people about the trips, so often everyone always says, first off, seeing Beetlejuice was awesome. Going to Blue Man Group was great. But also it's things like that. It's just experiences. It's things that, people get a chance to try and do and steal that they might not otherwise get the opportunity to do. So the last thing we're going to do, I have a series of questions. There was a show that I was in love with as a kid. It's called Inside the Actor's Studio. The host is a guy named James Lipton. So he would bring actors in and they would have conversations sort of like we're having. And in the end, he would always ask them a series of questions. And so I didn't pick all of the questions, but I've got a bunch of questions to ask you. So the first question is, what is your favorite word?
It might sound cliche, or I'm sure I could probably think of a funnier one if I tried, but love is probably my favorite word, because love is a word where you can say a million words by just saying one word. So cool, and it's so light, and it's so happy, and it's so positive, and I love anything. I'm a sucker for anything that's light and happy and positive. So
what is your least favorite word?
I could just say the opposite and say hate. You know what? I will go with that, because it was always a word that was forbidden in my household growing up. My mom hated the word. She hated the word hate. So it was just something growing up. I wasn't taught to hate. I was taught to love people for who they are. I think it's really special that I was able to grow up in a household that I was taught to love instead of taught to hate,
When it comes to the performing arts, what interests you or excites you?
I'd say the part that actually interests me the most, which people wouldn't normally expect from someone that's performing as much as I do, I'm so interested in the behind the scenes of it all. So like the directing and the casting process and how much it takes. And I'm just so interested in the process of producing something that might only take a little bit of time to watch, but it just takes so much time and effort and people to just bring it together. And I think that process is just so special, and it's so cool, and it's so different for every single production.
And you've been producing content online, so you've been having to deal with some of that stuff and all of the process that it takes to get to this little 1-minute video or whatever.
It is a lot, yeah. And I've even thought about starting up a YouTube channel to share experiences that I've had, because I've had some pretty cool ones, and I think it's fun to, especially around here, just show people what they can do no matter where they're from. It just takes so much. It takes the idea, it takes you have to think everything out. You have to nitpick everything to make sure it's the exact idea that you want to portray. And it's so cool. I love the process.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, right? Like you don't
Right.
know what's going to be a problem until it becomes a problem. You're like, oh, how do I handle this thing? How do I do this thing? And the other thing that I always end up dealing with when I'm editing these, there's some things you just can't fix. Like
Right.
there are some times where I didn't realize I totally fumbled a question. I'm like, how do I not make it sound like I'm a total idiot? This question, because no matter how I cut this together, I kind of sound like an idiot. What is it in the performing arts that doesn't excite you?
With anything I've done, especially when it comes to the acting and the modeling and the pageantry, I find that some people just want to kind of put people in a box. So it's like, if you're into pageants, you're just like this, or if you're into modeling, you're just like this, or if you're an actor, you're this one kind of stereotypical theater kid. And I also think that's what's so special about Dear Isle, because we have kids from all sides of life that come together to create this incredible piece of art. And that alone has taught me so much about everything else that I've gone and done. And that's another thing that acting at Dear Isle has taught me, is just that you don't have to fit the box. You don't have to fit the idea. You can be whoever you are from wherever you're from, and you can do anything. It's definitely been a struggle to overcome those ideas and opinions of others, as it is for anyone. But, I wouldn't give up everything I've learned from those experiences. So
you talk about hate and judgment, and there are definitely people who hear this is what you do, and so they immediately think this is who you are. And so the more we push back against that, I think the better. What sound or noise do you love?
The birds chirping. That is my, I said I was a sucker for anything happy and positive. That just the color yellow is just so happy. It's like the sun and sunflowers and stuff. Birds chirping reminds me of the color yellow, which then makes me happy.
And so what sound or noise do you hate?
Mm, maybe that one. No, I'm kidding. uh, I hate the sound of yelling. I don't know. It just makes me anxious. I think anyone feels that, but if it's one thing if it's like playful yelling, but if it's like people actually shouting at each other, it just makes my heart kind of sink because it's not showing that love that I talked about. It's kind of spreading that idea of negativity and hate. It doesn't make me feel good.
And the last question, if you could have any job with no limitations, if you could have any profession, what would you do?
That question's so hard for me because I feel like every other day I have a new interest where I'm dead set on like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. 2 days ago, it was interior design, and yesterday was event management. And a year ago, I wanted to be a writer. So it's just like, I've always been drawn to the entertainment industry though. So what I'm doing now is the modeling and the acting. I think it's so fun and it's so cool to make art, whether it's you behind a camera or it's you in a film. All three, the director, actor, the model. If I could be all three, like if I could write, produce, and direct my own movie, I would just be in heaven. It's just so cool to have your idea completely come to life in the way that you want it to be, and I think that would be so special.
Absolutely. And I love that you're open to things. That idea of not or, but and, right?
Yeah.
That's all the questions I have. So thank you very much, Grace, for doing this. I really had a good time talking with you. And I hope that we can get together here in the Reach in person sometime this year. We'll see what happens.
Thanks for having me. This was super fun.
Bye, Grace.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. When you donate to the Reach Performing Arts Center, you are contributing to K-12 arts education, experiences, residencies, and performances. You're helping to support this wonderful facility, and you're helping bring arts to our community. If you'd like to donate, you can visit our website and hit the donate button on the top of the page, or you can send a check to the Reach Performing Arts Center at 249 North Deer Isle Road, Deer Isle, Maine, 04627. Thanks, and I hope to see you at the Reach.